Hello, everybody. Welcome to SpindleTV. Almost said digital woodcarver. That's next week. Welcome to SpindleTV. My name is Laney Shaughnessy. I'll be your host this evening. We're going to talk about the Vectric software and working with third-party vector files tonight, and hopefully you'll pick up something or some good information out of it. I want to thank everybody for stopping in and joining us. And yes, Stephen Camaro, 10.5, Vectric 10.5 has been released. One of the cool features, there's a lot of new cool features in 10.5 of the Vectric software, and one of them is the new laser module add-on, which is it's a paid module, paid add-on, but it's pretty cool, and we'll be exploring that in an upcoming class, and we're going to look at some of the other features in 10.5. Now, I'm still going to be working in 10 tonight, even though I've downloaded 10.5 and everything. We're still working in 10 tonight. For me, I am, but yeah, we'll definitely get into that and explore that coming up soon and everything. We'll give everybody a chance to get it downloaded and all that fun stuff. So the premise of tonight is we're going to look at a website that I have no affiliation with whatsoever, but it's a very cool website, and 3axis.co. And they have a lot of cool projects on there and vector files of these projects and things for free that you can download. And we're going to explore that, and then we're going to talk about, now that we've downloaded the file, what do we do when we bring it in and everything. So hopefully you'll enjoy it and all that wonderful stuff. All right. So, all right. Everybody's popping in. I popped in a little early. We were supposed to start at 7:15, but I'm a few minutes early. So we'll give everybody a chance to come in, and we'll drink out of an invisible can. Ooh, SpindleTV. Good stuff. All righty. Let's see here. Let's do a screen share. All right. Well, hopefully you all can hear me well tonight. Internet's a little crazy. We have some serious thunderstorms outside, and I've got Cox Cable, who is my cable provider, coming out tomorrow to really pump up my internet. It's been a little lagging this past week. We've had some weather issues and blah, blah, blah. So hopefully there'll be no issues this evening. And also with that, let's go ahead and get started. Let's take a look at tonight's project. So tonight's project is a kid's desk and chair. It's got a cool feature of like a folding table type easel, if you will. And of course, when it's down flat, it's a nice little table and chair for snacks and games and all that stuff. And if you would have watched, oh gosh, a few weeks back, we did a video on kids games, different puzzles and kids games and things. And this would be a perfect little desk for those puzzles and games. It can store right inside underneath the lid. There's a nice little storage area and all. And yeah, nice little fun project. There's some obstacles to overcome with this project. And I'm going to walk you through my approach on how I will look to do that. All right. So if we close out of the picture here, it takes us to, we're on the site 3axis.co. Like I said, I have no affiliation with this website, but they've got a lot of cool projects and things broken down by different file types. And things, and a lot of the files are free, right, to download and work with and things. And so there's some really cool stuff on here. I want to give them a shout out, thank them for, you know, all the work they're putting into it and providing the free files and stuff. And the kids desk and chair is one of the files that you know, I'm working with. Now, one of the things is when you go to the 3axis.co site and you are kind of navigating, they do have a lot of ads, and you can tell an ad by the little icon up here, the ad choice and the little X. And so you'll see all these that says start download, start now, start, you know, and it's like, and you may think that you're downloading that particular project file, but you're actually clicking on an ad that's going to take you to a third party, whatever, and everything. So the key thing is to be able to navigate these ads properly to get down to the actual download of the file and everything, and not mistakenly click one of the ads. I mean, you know, of course, clicking the ads, you know, they have them on there because they get revenue from them and things like that. Good on them, you know, but sometimes they're misleading. You think that this is the download and stuff and things like that. So we got to, you know, navigate and be able to get to the correct download link. And usually it will have the categories here with the uploader, the individual who created the file, and the size of the file and everything. And there'll be a 3D view as well as a download and all. Now, I've already downloaded the file. So, and again, that's 3axis.co. Cool site, a lot of neat CNC projects and laser projects and things like that. Definitely check them out sometime and explore it, you know. And hey, Crystal, thanks for popping in. How you doing? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my job. I'm in VCarve Pro tonight, and so I'm going to create a new file. Now, my CNC machine, and let's see if we can pop back to me for a second. My machine is the DWC 2440, meaning that it has a 24 by 40 inch cutting area. You know, it's not a big, you know, machine. It's not a small one, but it's kind of that mid-range machine. So a 24 by 40 inch cutting area. On that cutting area, or the CNC itself, the actual table is 48 inches by 30. So I have kind of that table surface to work with, but my cutting area is 24 by 40. So that's one of the things that I've got to work around in this project due to one of the part sizes and stuff, and we'll explore that in just a moment. So for the setup, let's go ahead and let me change, which I never do, and I'll get on my face here while I'm changing my display settings so everything is nice and big for you guys and girls. Let me jump into my display settings here and scale that up for you. Whoa. My. That's a big old. All right. All right, let's get back to it. Whoa. I'm sharing the wrong screen. Bear with me a second here. We were in an infinity loop there for a minute. All right, so now we can see everything nice and big and clear. On my setup, this is going to be a single-sided job. And my job side is going to be 36 inches along the x-axis, 24 inches along the width. I'm kind of pushing my limit there. And I'm going to go with 1/2 inch thick plywood material. I'm going to go with 1/2 inch material on this one. A nice furniture grade plywood, like a Baltic birch or airplane plywood or something, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to be touching off on the, what am I going to touch off on? I'm cutting a lot of parts out. So I'm going to be working off the machine bed, and I'm going to start from the bottom left corner. All right. So we'll click OK on that setup. Got my work area here. Now I need to go ahead and I need to bring in the file. And here's the thing. One of the things that we've got to work with when I bring this file in, it's not going to come in to scale. And so if you remember another couple of weeks back, I did a video or a class on tips, tricks, and something else. I forget what the something else was, but the first part of the video title is tips and tricks. And we talked about Peter Pascal's scaling box from Peter Pascal from CNC Nuts. Showed how to scale projects, drawing a box around it and using that box to scale the parts to the appropriate size and things. And we're going to do that because when I bring these parts in, they're not going to be scaled to the right size. And so we got to figure out, you know, our scaling. We got to figure out our layout, nesting, and all that good stuff for, you know, getting these parts able to be toolpath and everything. So with that being said, let's go ahead and import the vector file. Okay, and you'll see compared to my 24 by 36 inch sheet, you'll see how big these parts are, right? They're humongous. They're huge. And if we, you know, imagine all of these areas here, these are where the parts will slot and fit together, right? So if I were to measure these slots, let's get my measuring tool. Let's go vertically. And if I were to measure this slot here, we're at 1.2 inches, right? And I'm using 1/2 inch plywood. So everything is scaled up huge where all of the slots, every one of them are 1.2 inches. We can validate that. We'll come up to another slot here. And if I measure this vertically, we'll go from here to here. And we've got that 1.2, right? So that's kind of the scale that it's at right now. And what I need to do is I need to a quick and efficient way to scale all these parts down so that I can use my 1/2 inch plywood to cut those parts out. Now, if we were to think about what I just said there for a minute, I'm using 1/2 inch plywood, right? And we know that, you know, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch plywood, you know, those are the nominal dimensions. I believe that's the correct term, nominal dimensions. But they are not the actual dimensions of the plywood. And so this black screen that's here is going to be loading a little cheat sheet as soon as it just takes its derriere sweet old time. There we go. And so we can see the nominal measurements and then the actual measurements of the plywood. And so when we're scaling down our parts to fit our material, even though I'm talking the nominal measurement, I need to actually scale it down to the actual measurement for the parts to, you know, fit appropriately. Okay. So we're going to go for, you know, that 15, 30 seconds. All right. So keep that in mind when you're working with plywood. Actual thicknesses vary from the nominal thicknesses. Okay. All right. So 15, 30 seconds. That's what I need my slots to be, right? All right, so let's minimize that and get that out of the way. Now, if any of you followed along with me on that tips and tricks video, you know that we start out by drawing a box or a rectangle around our parts, and one side or the other needs to coincide with the pieces, the parts, in this case, that 1.2 inches, right, needs to be able to coincide with that. And if I break it down for you again, let's grab a notepad here. And, you know, I talk about this in depth in that video, that tips and tricks video. But imagine if my parts slots were 1/8 of an inch and I needed to scale them up. Well, I would draw my box around the parts, and my box one side of my box, the length or the width, in this case, I always work with the length for me, but the length needs to coincide some way with that 0.125. If I were to move that decimal over 1, now I'm at 1.25 inches. Or if I were to move it over twice, I'm at 12.5 inches. If I were to move that decimal point over 3 times, I'm 125 inches, then 1,250 inches, 1,200, 5,000 inches, on and on and on and on, right? And I need to, one of these numbers has got to, kind of coincide with the size of my box, right? Well, for me, my parts right now are currently sized 1.2 inches. So my box here, if we look at the job size right now, or that box size, currently right now I'm at 330 inches along that length. So I can't do the 1.2. If I move that decimal point over, I'm at 12. If I move it over again, I'm at 120. If I move it over again, I'm at 1,200. That's the closest number that I can get to. So that's where I need to be. I need to size that box up to 1,200. And let's grab it there. And so now my length coincides with my parts, right? It's a weird thing, but it works, guys and girls. It works very well. And so what I want to do now that I've got my box sized appropriately, where one of my length or height coincides with my slots, and I always use the top length. I always use the length as the coinciding number. But now that it coincides with that 1.2, well, now what I want to do is stand by. I'm trying to figure out why my VCar Pro is not responding. Why isn't it responding? I don't know. Why aren't you responding? That's weird. Oh. Okay. We're going to come back to me for a second while we talk and let that catch up to itself. I'm not sure exactly what's happened there, but it's messed up. Now, I got a question mark here from John DeMedeiros, 41.6666. Question mark? John, I am really good at answering questions, but I have no clue what the question is there and everything. So let me know what the question is, and I will be happy to answer it. And I honestly, I'm sitting here like trying to kill time. Why did my program freeze up like that? I don't know. But we're going to prevail. We're going to prevail, and we're going to get it back right now. Crazy stuff. I don't know what I did that made it work so hard, but it was like, oh, hell no. Whatever you just did, I did not like. So let's get back to it. Right now. All right. So I had to, this is why you save early and save often. I had to close out of the program because it just locked up on me and I need to re-import the file. So luckily we weren't too far into it and all that wonderful jazz. I think it's the screen, having that big old resolution. I don't know. I can't speculate. But let me get my box drawn back around here. And once again, I need to, put my size in. We'll click apply on that and close that tool. All right, let's get that box sized up appropriately. Remember, my number is 1200. Click apply. All right, and let's close that tool. Okay, so now that I have my box sized up appropriately, I'm going to actually select the box and all the parts this time. Here's where the magic happens. When I go into my size tool, and I'm just going to do it for right now for the 1/2 inch just to show you. But if I wanted to scale this down to my, so my parts would be within a 1/2 inch. And what the hell is going on with my, excuse my language, what's going on with my Vectric V-Carve software? Why is it freezing up? There's something odd going on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are, what the hell's freezing up? Give me a second, boys and girls. I may have to change my display properties back. Let me do that. Let me check and make sure that, let me see if that's the reason. I've never heard of that, but let me change back my resolution and see if that's what it is, because I've never run into that issue before. And okay, well, that might have been the issue because it's not frozen up now. All right, so I'm going to try my best. I know everything is small and it's hard to see. I'll try my best to zoom into the stuff that we're doing. But as I was saying, here's where the magic happens. Now I need to size these parts down for my 1/2 inch material, right? And even though it's 15-30 seconds, we're going to do that. We're going to do that, but I'm going to go with my 1/2 inch. So I'm going to scale this down, and the number that I need to scale it to is going to be 500, right? So 0.5, if I roll that decimal point over twice, it'd be 500. That's the closest number to where I'm at. So if I change this to 500 and click apply and size it down, now if I come in here and go into my parts, if I were to measure my slots, and let's measure horizontally, let's get up nice and close here. If I were to measure my slots, they're 1/2 inch, right? Isn't that awesome? My horizontal slot here, or my vertical slot here, if I were to measure that now, 1/2 inch, right? Isn't that cool how that does that? That's a very cool function. But I need to get to 15-30 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, 15-30 seconds. So I'm going to get out of my measure tool here, and I'm going to select these parts, and I'm going to resize, and I need 15-30 seconds, right? So 15-30 seconds equals 30 seconds equals 0.46875. So I'm already at 500 for the size of that box. So I need to size it down to 468.75. And I know it's hard to read that number. I'm so sorry, but it does say 0.46875 right there. I want to scale that down. So I'm going to move that decimal point over here and get rid of it over there. And I'm going to resize this based on that. And now if I come into my parts and I were to measure them, and let's go 5 decimal points on here. And if I measure horizontally from here to here, I'm at my 4.46875. All right. Very cool, very quick to get all those parts sized down without having to do a whole lot. All right. Boom. Now my parts are readily sized. The only thing I've got to focus on now are my fillets. Now these are T-bone fillets. So if you're not familiar with the fillet tool and everything, and now that I have this size down to an appropriate size, let me see if I can go back and change my resolution for you fine ladies and gentlemen. Let me see if I can change my resolution to get everything built back up. I think it was just a big file and it wasn't liking it. I don't know, but we're going to give it a go. We're going to change that resolution. And I'm going to take a quick second and save this file. I'm just going to save it as vector class. Just throw it in my downloads just so I have it and all that wonderful jazz. All right, let's get back up full screen here. Now we can see those things very well. And hopefully, you know, now that I'm sized appropriately and stuff, there won't be any freezing up. But our fillet tool, we have normal fillets, which basically create a nice little radius on square, sharp corners. We have dog bone fillets. These are used when two slotted pieces need to fit together and we need a place for the bit to escape. And then we have T-bone fillets, and these are used when the clearance slot is the same diameter as the tool being used. Okay, so basically it creates clearance in the internal corners where the slot is the same size as the tool, right? And so if we were to look at each of these fillets on these slots, these are T-bone fillets. And what it's doing is it's, you know, assuming that I'm going to be using a 1/2-inch end mill to cut these slots when I'm not going to use a 1/2-inch end mill. So I don't want a T-bone fillet. I want a dog bone fillet. And so what I need to do is in my fillet tool, I've got to actually go through, and unfortunately for you fine ladies and gentlemen, I did not pre-prep this. This is all from scratch, so I don't have a file with all the fillets taken out and all that wonderful jazz. But what we need to do is I'm going to actually be using trying to debate, do I want to use the T-bone fillet still, even though I'm using a smaller tool? I'm trying to look at how they're laid out. No, I should be able to. Let me see how my dog bone fillet's going to look in this corner. That's going to be important for me. I think it's going to look good. So I'm going to be using a 1/4-inch end mill to cut the parts out. And so my radius is 1/8 of an inch, right? And as I, you know, come in here and everything, the fillets, unfortunately, are kind of, let me close this tool here. The fillets are kind of, unfortunately, they're built in. I didn't create these fillets in Vectric, and therefore it's kind of not wanting to really give me, it's not wanting to give me the opportunity to remove those fillets. And normally, if it was, it would give me a little X that I could click on and all that wonderful jazz, and it would work, but it's not. So, which kind of sucks. But Let me see what happens on a slot here. I may have to just stick with the fillets that are built in. It's one of the things that we have to deal with you know, certain files. Let me see here. Let's go into my fillet tool and let's go with the dog bone fillet. And yeah, it's not going to let me remove the fillet. Normally, it would let you, in certain files, it'll let you remove the fillet and then replace it. Now, I could go through on all my slots and redraw all the rectangles and then create the fillets appropriately. Basically, you know, connect my lines and things. Do I want to do that, or do I just want to go with it? I want to go with it. Let me see here. It's just such a big hole that if I don't have to have it in my, if I don't have to have it in my project in my design, then I'd much rather not have it in my project and design. So let me see here. Horizontal. Yeah, so it's almost a quarter inch radius and all that blah, blah, blah. So we're going to actually lay it out. Let's see, how many parts do I got? Not many. We can go through, we can knock this out. So my fillets, basically, imagine if I'm going to go into node editing in here. And woo, look at all them nodes, boy. Let me zoom into my corner node, which is my most important node here. And if I cut the vector right there on that corner, I should be able to use my extend tool. And of course, I cut the wrong node. Gotta love it when you do that. I'll just delete the span and get rid of that. See if I can delete that point. Is it going to let me delete that point? Delete that span. Okay. So I should be able to use my extend tool to extend this line. There it is. Oh, I was about to say, now don't give me no hard time. Extend this line down to here, down to this vector. And there's something weird going on with my metric today. There we go. And then I can come in and, you know, clear that away. You know, cut that part away. And here I should be able to use, once I get all these corners cleaned up, I should be able to use my dog bone fillet and drop it in. Why is it not working, ladies and folks? It's because I extended the vector, but it's still closed. Or it is closed. Why are you not working, you son of a gun? I think it's going to force me to. Is it going to force me to use a T-bone fillet? No. Well, what in tarnations is happening today? 1/8 inch tool radius, dog bone fillet. Are you not going to work with me? Oh my God. All right. We may have to, you know, hey, whatever file this DXF was created in, it is harsh. No offense, 3axis.co. But man alive. Let me see if I redraw my vectors here. Curve fit tool. Look at all those nodes. Holy camole. Let's go with arcs and radiuses. We'll go with a tolerance of 0.004. Keep the sharp corners where they apply. Replace the vector preview. That kind of breaks it down a bit. And let's see if my fillet tool will work now. Okay. So is it going to work? It would work if my joint was squared up. Wow, this is just, this might turn into an ordeal here. Let me bring that down square. You going to work with me? Oh man, we may have to just grin and bear it. Okay. All right. So all right, let's delete this span. You guys are going to get a whole lesson on how to work with these vectors. All right, let's snap to here and go straight across 0 degrees. And we'll trim that corner up. Oh, you son of a gun. Let's go into node editing and delete that point. Pull this one down. Trim up that corner to clean it up. And now is my fillet tool going to work? After all that hard, laborious work? No. All right. Well, I'm not going to go through all of that. I'm going to just use my undo tool, and we're going to get right back to where we were. Okay. And unfortunately, we're going to have to leave these T-bone fillets in this particular project unless I went through and spent the time to redraw all of these shapes. And that's not the point of this project, because we imported them. We went to 3axis.co just so we could grab the files to make our work a lot less protrusive. Yeah, it's Vectric's way of saying that I like that. Harvey's like, that's Vectric's way of saying you need to update to 10.5. It probably is, but I'm not going to update right now. I have a teaching license, so I've got to wait for I've got my Aspire 10.5. I've got to wait for my Vectric VCAR Pro 10.5, so I can't update that right now. But we're going to go ahead and unfortunately, we're going to work with the fillets that we have. And it's a damn shame. I would have to redraw these parts. And they are just not letting me. It's not giving me the option for any kind of fillet. Let me see here. If I do a normal fillet, you know, yeah, it's not giving me any undo. All right, so scratch that idea, ladies and gentlemen. So what we're going to do is our slots and everything are the correct size. If this were my project, which it is my project, right? It's not my project, but I mean, it's the one I'm designing right now. I would kind of go through and, redraw all these so I could put the fillets in myself. But it would require literally redrawing the entire part. I do not believe if I were to come in here and yeah, these vectors aren't giving me any snap options or nothing. You see how far off I am? Wow, what's going on with that vector? Is it all right, we got to do a little bit of a test. we got to do a little bit of a test, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to go back one more time. I'm going to go back to my earlier resolution, my bigger resolution, and I just want to see if my display resolution is causing the issue, because that would be weird if it was. But let's find out. And I hate it because I want it nice and big for you guys and girls to be able to see. But let's see here. Let's see if is it letting me snap? No, it's still not letting me snap properly. You know, oh, sorry guys, y'all are seeing the wrong thing. Okay, so it's still not letting me snap properly, you know, with the points. And I honestly think it may have to do with the way those vectors, all those nodes and things. So got the resolution back to normal. Let's see if we can use our curve fit tool. And let's see if, you know, all these nodes are what's causing the issue. And some vector programs, whatever they drew these in, you know, cause all of these crazy nodes. Let's see what we can do here. Let's tighten up this to a 90-degree max angle. Keep sharp corners. I want a very tight tolerance. I'm going to go 0.001. Where there are arcs, let's create arcs. And let's click on preview. Clean up those nodes a bit. And now that this vector has been cleaned up, let's see how well it does with my snap points. Oh, my snap points are back. Wonderful. I don't know if you guys and girls can see that dotted line there in such a small resolution. But now it's letting me snap to that part. Now, it didn't let me snap up there. Let me undo that. And that's because there's a little jog right there. And so, oh, well. 3axis.co, Kenneth, when you drew these, you didn't help us out there, anybody, but thanks for the free file. We appreciate it very much anyway. Can't say nothing bad about anything free. I need to go into node editing, and we're going to delete this span, delete this span, and we're going to use our extend tool to extend from here to there to get that nice corner back there. Over here, there's another little funky jog there. So, oh, this could take a while. Let's go into node editing. I'm going to delete this span and this arc. And I'm going to use my extend tool, and I'm going to extend from here to there to get that nice corner back. Okay. So now with that corner cleaned up, let me come down here and make sure that, yeah, see, I've got all these funky arcs and radiuses and things that should not be there. You know, so if I take my rectangle tool now, I should be able to snap to there now that I've cleaned that up, and then snap down to here. See if I can weight this vector up right there. And the crazy thing is, it will not let me snap here because of that screwed up corner right there. So I'm just going to draw it there, and then I'm going to, now because I know it's snapped properly, and I'm just going to extend it down and snap it to there. All right, if I did that and I come into this vector here, I should be able to go into node edit mode and select those nodes and delete those points. Delete that span and that span. And that should leave me with my rectangle. Which is not up to the correct height. Oh boy. Let's go into transform mode. Grab this and snap to there. Well, this could be a long class. We don't want it to be a long class. We want to learn something fun and effective. All right, so the crazy thing about this is none of these lines on this design are at an appropriate, square angle. If we look over here on this corner, which is blurry and hard to see, and I'll change the resolution back knowing this, but I'm at this corner here, but on this corner, I'm high. And no, there's not. And so Harvey has another, a good point. He's like, hey, is there another drawing underneath the top piece? I'm assuming, Harvey, you're talking about, is there another vector, like a duplicate under? And no, there's not. There's no duplicates in this, in everything. Let's see here. That's very strange, Steven said. I had the same issue with the fillet tool last week, cutting out a candy cane shape. Right. And, so I've never had that issue with the fillet tool. But I'm also now noticing some flaws in the design that, I would want to, spend some time cleaning up, because nothing is square or aligned properly. And the way that, I'm assuming that this is flat because that lid comes in and closes. This is the top of the table here. That lid comes in and closes. And I'm assuming we would want it resting flat straight across from here to here. I don't believe we would want it upright. And let me change the resolution back for you guys and girls, since I know that there's a problem with this design now. And I just randomly picked this design. It wasn't, pre-thought out or anything. So we've got to take the good with the bad, but don't give up on 3axis.co. They do have some great designs and all that stuff. We just got to contend with some issues. So once again, let me get rid of this infinity here. And, what I was saying is this is where that lid comes in and closes on this door, or on this, the top of the frame. And I would assume that we would want that to be straight across, all the way across from one side to the other, right? And if I really zoom into my guideline, you can see that this vector line is not straight across, right? And if I travel all the way over to the other side, it's on there. A little bit of a dipper-do right here. And I'm going to assume that is, I'm going to assume this. I'm going to assume that when I redrew this with the curve fit tool, that it screwed up the layout, right? That's the assumption that I'm going to take. So what am I going to do? I'm going to undo my steps back to where this vector was, you know, a crazy million vectors. Right, and let's get back to that right there. Okay, so I'm going to assume that now that this is back to its original state, what I imported it in, let's go ahead and drag a guideline down and snap across here. Okay, make sure I'm straight across there, which I am. And let's come over here and I'm straight across there. So when I redrew the curve fit tool, it screwed up the shape, right? So I've got to take the good with the bad. My curve fit tool, unless I get my tolerance exactly dead nuts on to where it doesn't redraw the shape and deform it in any way, and I can't really guarantee that, because I can't use the straight line option because I have curves and arcs in this in these parts. My arcs and curves threw it off. My tolerance is tight. I could probably go 0.0001, right? You know, and tighten up that tolerance even more. But no matter what, it threw off that design. So I'm not going to take that chance, right? So I've got to take the good with the bad, and I've just got to work my parts. If I'm going to redraw these, then I'm going to have to put in the time, right? So we got to take the good with the bad. Either leave the fillets, leave these fillets so we have these, you know, open voids here when our parts fit together, which if we were to look back at the kid's desk and we zoom in, you can see barely, it's hard to see, but you can see those fillets and all. And we got to ask ourselves, are they too, do we need to really spend the time? Can we just work with what we've got and stick with it and, you know, get our layout done and our tool pathing and stuff? Or do we want to minimize the voids and redraw all of the slots in these parts? I mean, all of the slots, even the outside ones and stuff. So I'd like to hear your thoughts in this, in the chat. Would you, if this was your file, would you take the time required to come in and redraw all the slots and vectors and all and everything? Or would you just go with it as it is, get the layout done, and deal with, you know, those T-bone fillets at their current size, 1/4 inch? I'd like to hear you chime in and tell me what your thoughts would be. For me, I'm a little anal on some things, and you know, if I can minimize any defects to make the part look really nice, because the fillets, no matter what, are still they're gonna distract from the joinery, right? It's not going to be that nice, pretty joinery. We're going to have those fillets in the corners no matter what. The question is, do we want to minimize the size, or do we want to just leave it be? I'd love to hear how it is. Here. All right. Hold on now. Jim G is thinking. We got a couple that say, you know, if it was really bad, Michael Paris says if it was really bad, he would leave it, or he'd fix it. Yes. Mike Smith said he would leave it. But Jim says, hey, Laney, what would happen if you offset twice, plus and minus, and then delete the original? So you're basically creating your own shapes with those offsets. That's thinking outside the box, Jim. That's a really good thought. So let's find out. Let's grab a part here. We will offset outward, and I'll offset outward I guess it really doesn't matter how far I offset outward and inward, but let's kind of be realistic. I'm gonna base it off the tool that I'm using. So I'll say my tool diameter is 1/4 of an inch. So I'll offset outward 1/4. And do I want to do inward first, then outward, or outward first, then inward? Let's find out. Let's go outward first. Delete the originals. Create sharp, corners where they need to be. Select the new. So we're going to offset outward, and then inward. Now, by doing that, I've lost my internal joinery. So let's undo that, and let's group this part together. Let me get rid of this rectangle that doesn't belong here. Let me group the part together. It's a good learning lesson. Let's group it first, and let's try that again. Offset outward, delete the original, still losing the parts. Okay, let me go back inward and see what happens here. So I'm losing that joinery and everything. So let's go inward, then outward. Let's do that. Let's go inward first. And I'm going to go with a smaller offset because my offset might be too big for the part. So let's offset. Oh, shoot. Offset 1/8 of an inch. We'll go inward first and then outward. Okay. So by doing that, let's see what all it has affected. Let's go into our size tool here, and let's measure our slots. We'll measure horizontally first. Okay, still got the same size slots vertically as well. That's my 15/16. That one's a little off, but I don't know if it was off to begin with, but that one's a little off. That's all right, close enough, because I'm going to redraw these parts. Now, by doing that, I've deleted the original vectors and everything. So let's go back to, and this is no longer really a fillet. So I don't think the fillet tool is going to work for me. Yeah, the fillet tool is still not going to work for me, but let's see what it did for node editing, and let's see how well it did us with node editing, and see how our nodes. So it did minimize the nodes for a majority of it. There are still some, parts here where there's a lot of nodes, but that's okay. Let's see if our part is still straight across. If I snap here, look good there. I look good there and there. So this could be something that I could work with. Let's find out. Let's go into here, and what I'll do is I'll go into node editing, and I'm going to actually delete. Hit the letter D on your keyboard when you select multiple points. I'm going to delete this points here. D for delete, and let's delete those as well. Undershot that one a little bit, but that's okay. I can still work with that because I'm actually going to delete this span here and delete this span here. Let's see what we got on the corners. We got a single node, looks like. How well does it allow me to snap? Well, it would allow me to snap if I snap from there to there. So it's snapping well. That's not bad. So all I need to do is I should be able to extend with my extend tool. I should be able to extend from here to here and here to here. Little bit of a overshot right there. Let me make sure my line is nice and straight. It looks straight. Yeah, it is. All right, so it's nice and straight. So I overshot my extend right there, so I can trim that away. Nicely done. And now I can go with my dog bone fillet. Fingers crossed, I should be able to come here and go boom, boom. Nicely done, Jim. Way to think out of the box. Good job. All right, so now this is a fillet here. This is a T-bone fillet. So I'm under the assumption that before that T-bone fillet came in, that this line connected before they put that fillet in. Do I want to mess with that and or just leave it be as the hinge and give it the wood some clearance when it hinges? Let's see what I would do here. If I come in with a straight line from here, 90 degrees, oh, let's see here, and trim away this and that little nub. On my inside corner here, can I put a dog bone fillet? No. Can I put a T-bone fillet? Yes. All right. I'm kind of okay with that. I'm kind of okay with that. The dog bone fillet will not let me because it's just too tight of a corner there, but my T-bone fillet will. Okay. So I'm good with that. I'm not going to complain about that at all. Here on my slot, I need to we're going to be doing a lot of node editing, and basically I'm coming in here and oops, don't want that one. I want these. I'm going to hit the letter D to delete those points. Oops, that's a bad idea. Let's go just there and hit the letter D. I want to keep this vertical line here. Let's grab D for delete. D for delete. All right, I'm going to delete this span and delete this span. And then I'm going to extend this out from here to here and from here to here. Okay, redrawing that slot. And the reason why I'm leaving this vertical line is because that's how the length of the slot needs to be, right? So that's why I'm keeping that vertical line. Let's go back into node editing and let's get rid of, let's try that again. Let's hit D for delete when you're selecting multiple nodes. Let's get rid of these guys. Delete this span. D for delete. And delete this span. And the reason why I'm deleting this span is I need nice straight lines. So I want to extend these lines out to where they belong, and then come in and clean up my oversight, right? I got to trim away my overshot over here and at the bottom. Okay. Now that this slot is redrawn, I can come back into my fillet tool. I can use my dog bone fillet, and I can put my dog bone fillets in. Oh. Okay, that one's not going to let me fillet. Let's find out why. There's always a reason. It's because it's not joined together. It's not closed. So let's join that vector as one closed vector. Then we can come back with our fillet tool and put our fillets in. Right? So where there's a will, there's a way. We just, we have to do the work, right? We got to put in the time, put in the work if we want our parts to be how they want to be. Now, this one, these slots are at an angle, right? So when we, work these, I'm not going to redraw a rectangle, none of that stuff. I'm working with the same vectors that I've got. Well, all I'm doing is I'm keeping my end vectors, my side vectors, and I'm getting rid of the loops on both ends. So a little bit of node editing, a little bit of time to work those parts. And let's get in and delete those. Same thing here. Delete that point as well. And I'm still going to delete these spans because there could be some kind of curve still left in them. And I'm much rather extend the vectors out where they go, accordingly and everything, so down here, same thing. And, you overcome and adapt, right? Observe, overcome, and adapt. All right, let's see here. Or identify the issue, overcome, and adapt. All right, I'm going to delete these spans. A span is the length of arc, curve, or line that's between two nodes. So I'm deleting the span here. And I don't have to keep right-clicking. I could just put my mouse over and hit the letter D on the keyboard to delete a span. I could put my mouse over a line and do that. But let's extend this line out. And let's zoom into our corners. We've got a little bit of a overlap. We'll come in and trim. There's one on the other side as well. Trim that away. Right, let's look up here, make sure there's no overlap, or overlap, which there's one right here on this end. Okay, and now my vector should be one closed vector. It is, and I can come into my dog bone fillet tool and put in my dog bone fillets. And the dog bone fillet is more appropriate than a T-bone because we're using a bit that is not the size of the slot. It's undersized. I'm using a 1/4 inch bit, cutting a 15/32 inch slot. So the dog bone fillets are the appropriate fillets for these joints. Okay. And so, it's a little bit of the back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And luckily on this, we only have just a few joints to work through. So stop talking, Laney, and work through it. So let's come in here and hit the letter D. When you select multiple nodes, the D key deletes those multiple nodes. Sometimes it'll leave one behind. That was dumb. D for delete. But I'm still going to delete the span. Delete the span. And while I'm here at this end, I'm going to go ahead and extend. I'll zoom in and trim while I'm up here. That one's good. And then let's come down here and deal with this one. N is the keyboard shortcut for node editing, so you don't have to keep moving back and forth. N, when you select the vector, N is the keyboard shortcut for node editing. D for delete multiple points. If you hover your mouse over a line and hit the D, that's delete span. So when you have multiple points selected, the D key is to delete those points. But when your mouse is over a line in node editing mode, that is the keyboard shortcut for delete span, right? So keyboard shortcuts, we can kind of get quick about it. And so we'll come in here and extend. We'll zoom in, go into our trim tool and trim that edge up. And I believe this edge has a little overlap as well. Now that that one is cleaned up, we can make sure that it's closed. It is. So we can go into our fillet tool and we can put in our fillets, right? All right. So we're working our way through the repairs. And the start of it was, Jim said, hey, what if we offset outward, then inward, right? Outward, then inward. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do, I believe that both of these parts are identical, right? I believe this part and this part are identical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down my control key. I'm in transform mode here. I'm going to hold down my control key and drag off a copy. And I'm going to take this part here. I'm going to mirror it. I'll flip it. We'll flip it horizontally. Flip that. Why aren't you mirroring? Oh. Hell, I don't want to. Okay, hold on. I just made about 3 different copies down here. Let's undo that twice. There we go. I do not want to create a mirrored copy. I do not want to flip it about the job center. I just want to flip it vertically right where it's at. Wonderful. I also want to flip it horizontally. Awesome. And if I were to take and drag and snap this part to there, let me find a good snapping point. There's no real good snapping point, but those parts are identical, right? So what that tells me that I can do is, instead of having to reinvent the wheel, I can come in here and delete this part. And I will replace it with this one, right? And I'm going to be nesting these onto my board, so I can just leave that part there. It's no big deal. So right there, we've already cut our parts in half, right? We've already cut our time in half because we don't have to recreate it. Okay, over here, we've got 3 slots to deal with. Let's come here. And node editing, right? Nope. What's our first step? What's our first step here is to, let's select, get out of node editing here, select our part. I'm going to group this together. I'm going to offset inward 1/8 of an inch, and then outward 1/8 of an inch, right? Basically kind of recreating that part, if you will. Thanks, Jim. That was a good idea, man. Way to think outside the box once again. All right, go to node editing. That cleans up our vectors so much easier to work with in things like all that wonderful jazz. We can come in here and select multiple parts. Notice I'm purposely not selecting the end nodes here. I'll come back and clean up these 2, but I'm purposely not selecting these end nodes here because it'll screw up my line. D for delete. We got another one here. Now on a single node, you hover your mouse over a single node, D will delete that as well. If I come in here, I want to kind of get rid of those 2 guys and him as well, and delete that span. I could have just, again, I didn't have to right click. I could have just put my mouse over the line and hit the letter D. Now I don't want this last node, so I'm going to hold my shift key down and deselect that one. Deselect, get it. and D for delete. So those two spans are cut. I can rejoin them by extending from here to here. And if the tool doesn't let you extend, it's because it's not extending properly to that line. And this line, for some reason, is not extending when I hover my mouse over it. So let's reopen that extend tool and see if that one's working. So I should be able to extend from there. Oh, that one's not going to let me extend that way. That's fine. So what I will do is I'll use when the extend tool doesn't work, I'll use the line tool and draw straight up, space bar. No, I got to trim it anyway, right? Straight up, space bar. And now I can trim away the, oh, I've got to extend. There's nothing to trim to. These lines don't extend out, right? So I can extend these now. I can extend from here to here. But for some reason, that's not letting me do it. Let's see here. Why not? That's okay. I don't know why not. Let's go into node editing and find out. There's no node issues. Put that back. Not sure why not, but that's okay. We'll use our line tool and just extend straight out. And over here, this one is already extended out. Wonderful. I can just come in and with my scissor tool, I can trim. Oh, look at that. Isn't that a sexy looking thing when it does that? Why does it do that? Let's come in here and trim. That one works fine. But this one should close up when I do that. But here's the thing. By doing that, this whole vector right here is not joined to the rest, but did I screw up my straight line? I'm going to check. Let's go from here and snap to there, and let's look. And you see how far that line pulled over when I just closed the tool, right? I don't want that. I need this line to be, you know, square with my my part, right? So that takes me back to node editing. And what I need to do is I need to align this node back with this node. So if I select this node first and this node last, I should be able to hit the letter Y on my keyboard. Oops, not Y, you doofus. I should be able to hit the letter X on my keyboard because X is left and right, Y is up and down. I should be able to hit the letter X on my keyboard and pull that back into alignment. Okay, so this was before. You can see the little jog right here, kind of jogs over. If I select the node I want to align to first, the node I want to align last, and I hit the letter X, it will pull that into alignment. Okay, awesome. Now all I have to do is join this upper vector with the rest of my part. So join that and close that vector up, right? And then come into my fillet tool, put my dog bone fillets in there, and that piece is done, right? So we got a little bit of work. And of course, this would be so much faster if I wasn't talking, right? And just doing, but I'm kind of instructing, so we're taking our time here. Let's go in here and don't do that. Let's go in here and select some nodes. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and add these nodes into the mix, as well as those nodes, and hit the letter D for delete. Put my mouse over the line, D to delete the span. Come back over here. Grab them. I want these two in there. Hold down the shift key to add those in there. And I do not want this in one. Turn that one off. D to delete. Hold down the shift key, or not hold down the shift key. What am I saying? Put your mouse over the line. D to delete the span. All right, let's join that back up. We'll use the extend tool, right? Is the extend tool going to let me extend this time? No. No, it's not going to let me extend. I don't know why. That's weird. But it should. It should. What if I back the line up a little bit and I use my extend tool to extend from here to there? Bam, right? Little things. The line was just too close to extend over. And so, you know, if I back it up a little bit, keeping it straight, I'm just backing it up a bit. My extend tool will allow me to turn that corner to extend that out, right? Nicely done. We've got to add this to the rest of that. So we'll join it, closing that vector up, and then put our fillet tool in there and put our dog bowl fillets in. Swell, very swell. All right, once again, this is our last one for this part. Rinse and repeat. N, keyboard shortcut for node editing. Select our nodes. Let's zoom in and let's hold down our shift key and get these nodes in there as well. D for delete the nodes. Put your mouse over the line. D for delete the span. Boom. Okie dokie. All right, let's do these. D, put the mouse over the line. D, keyboard shortcuts are wonderful. Let's extend this out. Now, will this one extend to there? Yes, it will. The reason why it will extend to there is because that line was actually past it, right? It was actually past it. Now, this one won't extend because the line's too close to turn the corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to back this line up a little bit, and then I can extend from there to there, right? Nice, clean way to clean that up. Here, I'm just going to use my scissor tool and trim that up. All right, we can use our fillet tool and pop a fillet in there and pop a fillet in there. All right, let's do the other side. N for node editing. Select our nodes. Let's go in there and add this one in there. Hold that shift key down when you're adding a node in. D for delete. Put your mouse over the line. Delete the span. If I say it enough, you guys will remember. All right, shift key. Let's add these nodes in there. D to delete that. Put the mouse on the line. D to delete that. Now, rather than wasting time, going back and forth, I'm just going to go ahead and get out of node editing mode. The escape key or go back to selection mode, that'll get you out of node editing mode, either one. But I'm just going to go ahead and might as well shorten this up on both ends, right? That way I can just jump to my extend tool and extend from here to there, extend from here to there. And that will allow me to make sure everything is closed up. And then put my fillets in. All right, awesome blossom. So that part is now done. This part, I'm going to group it together. I actually want to group all these together because we're going to be nesting them in a minute. So all these parts, I'm hitting the letter G for group. So that part's done. We can move it out of the way. Now, I'm almost positive that these two parts are identical because they're the two sides of the chair. So I'm just going to work on one, and then I'm going to make a copy of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get it off the board. That way it looks like I have less to work with. All right. So let's come in here. And everything that we just did, we're just doing it again. N for node editing. There's a lot of nodes on here. But wait, what did we forget? We got to do our little offset trick. Right? We need to do our offset trick. So that's our first step. Don't forget to do that. So let's select our part. offset, and I'm using 1/8 of an inch. Don't know why that works one over the other, but we're going to offset inward first and then outward, boom, to recreate that part. Beautiful, all that good stuff. And now we're going to come in and start cleaning up. In for node editing. D&D. Dungeons and Dragons. D&D. All right, let's select that. I do not want this node selected. Turn that off. The shift key. Hold that shift key when you're turning them off. D and D. All right. Now, on this line here, just like I, get out of node editing mode, I'm going to go ahead and I'm kind of leery about undersizing a slanted line versus a straight line. As long as I, if I, keep my size as long as it stays along that path, right? As long as it doesn't move off that angle, I'm good with that. I don't mind. And I oversized this one rather than undersized it. Don't ask me why, but I did. So I'm just going to use my extend tool to extend from here to here, here to here. And I'm going to use my trim tool. We're using all kinds of tools today, folks. My trim tool to clean that up. Make sure that my joint is a closed vector. It is. So then I can go straight into my fillet and put that in there. Right? Now, let's take a pause for a minute. There's a lot of things popping up here. And let's see if let's answer some questions here. Harvey says, when you fixed each piece, is it a good idea to copy it to a new layer so that you know that's the piece that you fixed? Well, Harvey, that's a great question. So, if I had a lot of parts, like a ton of parts and all, to know that I've, fixed them and they're done in things, it wouldn't be a bad idea to move them to another layer. Would I separate them by like putting a top layer, side, table leg layer 1, table leg layer 2, any of that? I wouldn't break it down that much, but creating a new layer and saying, finished parts, right? Giving it a name and everything is not a bad idea, and coming over here and moving that to the finished parts layer, and even giving that finished parts layer a different color, maybe like a blue or something. That way, we can even identify that, they're different, right? So, hey, it works, right? Whatever works for you, whatever makes designing easier for you, go for it, now Harvey jumps back and says, wait a minute, I meant not copy to a layer. And yeah, I wouldn't copy it. I would move it. I meant move, right? And I said move, and I knew what you meant, but I didn't read it. I read it as move. I actually didn't even see the word copy. Did I say the word copy? Because I moved. I didn't copy anything. I moved it to that layer. Did I? I did move it. Yeah, I moved it to that layer. Here, let's find out. Did I move it to the layer? Turn that layer off. Yes, I did. Okay. So yeah, I kind of knew what you meant. Hey, Ontario, Canada. What's happening, Edward? The update for VCarve Pro is out. It's 10.5. Absolutely, bud. In the beginning of the video, I said it was out. Stephen reminded everybody at the beginning of the class. And also it says it right up here, 10.5 is available. I'm not going to update right yet because I have an educational license that I got to work through and stuff and update. I've got my Aspire updated already, just not my VCarve Pro. Sam Bailey says, hey, I had to pause and restart, but it looks like you need to be on the project area rather than off of the board for the fillets to work. Ooh. Ooh. Now, that might be a game changer right there, Sam. Hold on. Sam is saying, hey, I think you've got to be on the project board for the fillets to work. Let's find out. I'm going to just take one of the parts for right now. Let's put that onto the board here. And Sam, if this works, man, I'm going to kick your butt for not telling me like 20 minutes earlier, man. But great. No, if it works, that's awesome, right? But I don't think these are fillets anymore because I offset inward, outward. Let's take a part. Let's move this one. Let's take a part that I haven't done the offset thing with. Let's grab this part right here. And not this part. Let's move that onto the board. All right. And let's give her a go. Let's see if that is true, that we actually have to be on the working area for the fillet tool to work properly like it's supposed to. Wouldn't that be awesome if it is? Let's see here, dog bone fillet. Let's zoom in. And I'm not getting my little X. Let's go to T-bone fillet. I'm not getting my little X to clear it out. Let's go here. Let's find out. Not getting my little X to clear that fillet out and everything. Here. Now I know these fillets are 1/4 of an inch, right? Originally, let's find out if we have to change this to 1/4 instead of an 1/8. Let's see here. Nope. Nope. No. All right, let's go. Let's make sure the layer we're working in is the active layer. Let's make sure all these little checks and balances are appropriate. Let's go into our fillet tool. And no. So that is not the case. That is not the case. Okay. It's just the vector, Sam. Yeah. So not the case. Now, as far as the snapping tools, let's find out the snapping tools. All right. So if I snap my rectangle to there, no, it didn't let me snap properly there. You know, let's snap that down. Let's extend this out. Okay. And now that I have that part there, I can delete this part. And then I should be able to go into, let's go back to my 1/8 inch dog bones. And I can put the fillets in that way. Right. You know, when it comes to these parts here, I would still have to delete these arcs and curves and things. I can use my line tool and draw a line here. Use my line tool and draw a line here. Let's see if this, well, that line wasn't very straight there, Hoss. My snap tool is not working on these vectors. These are all things that we've tried. There you go. Straight across. All right, let's try the trim tool. Let's trim away these things here. And let's see if the fillet tool will. Nope. 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 All right. So, unfortunately, that's not working. And the reason may be because, let me see, is that part squared up? Yeah. The reason may be that that's not working is because this line's not square. I can see a little If we move over to the, if we move over to here, we can see that there's a little jog right here. A little jog in the line. So, is this not letting me use the fillet tool or things because my line's not square? Well, let's find out. Let's go into node editing. And we've got all these jogs and everything here. These nodes are going to be what the problem is. We still are going to have to, Sam, we're still going to have to offset outward and inward to kind of clean up some of the nodes and things. But, you know, if I got rid of these nodes here, D for delete, you know, D to delete that one. If I deleted this span and I rejoin that span with a straight line, I think because this node right here, I don't think it would let me use the fillet tool. You know, it's because now on this one it will, because if we look in the node editing, I'm still not quite squared up there, but if we look at the node editing, there's only one node here, right? So the fillet tool would let me work on that. Over here, I've got all of these points that I would have to delete. I'd have to, except for the corner one, I'd have to delete them to clear that path, and then my fillet tool still not letting me fillet on that side. Let's find out why. Let's use our vector validator tool and let's see what we've got going on here. I've got 7 0 length spans. All right, let's clean them up. Boom, removed them. So now will my fillet tool work on that corner? No. It will on that one, right? But not this one. So I think for the best thing to do, you know, it's great to experiment and see, you know, if that works. I mean, we were able to clean that one up and everything, but we're going to have to stick to our current, you know, procedure and all that stuff and everything, you know. Now, if you need if you want your workspace to be as big as your parts to fit in, you know, it's 120 inches by, I'd have to draw a workspace that is 127 inches by 71 inches. I'd have to make my job size that big, you know, 130 by 75. And then, you know, I could move all my parts onto the board. You know, if I was worried that being off the board affected any of my tools, but in this case, it doesn't, you know. All right, so back to where we were. We've already cleaned this one up, that joint there. So let's come in here and in for node editing. And it was a great idea. It was a great idea, Sam. So I appreciate that. It was a good thought, but it wasn't the case. I think it's just the vectors themselves because of the way they were created by their original creator. I don't know. But if we come in here, let's go and let's kind of stick with our routine that we were doing. Delete our nodes, delete our spans, and then let's get out of node editing mode. I'll undersize this one this time. Let's go. Let's make it a little shorter. And I'll use my extend tool to extend from here to there and from there to there. Okay, let's do the other end. Select the vector, N for node editing, a keyboard shortcut. D for delete. Let's grab a couple of these and delete those as well. Put our mouse on the line, D to delete that span. Do not drag that out like that. Let's grab those. D to delete those nodes and D to delete those spans. Escape key to get out of node editing. Select our vector here. I'm going to grab the corner and just pull it in slightly. Don't move it, goofball. And use my extend tool to go from here to there and from there to there. Use my fillet tool to put my we got to join and close the vector. There we go. And then use the fillet tool to drop our fillets in. Right? It works. Let's stick with it. All right, last one for this one, and then we got to copy this part because there's two parts of that leg table. So here, in for node editing, it's the same thing. Just don't grab a line when you're doing that. Get up high. Come in here. I want to turn this point off right there. D for delete. Delete the span. And that's it for that corner. I'm going to use my extend tool to extend from here to here. And then I'm going to use my, make sure it's joined up. We'll join that. Join that. It is closed. That's great. I'll use my fillet tool and we'll throw our fillet there. Okay. Now, when that pocket is getting pocketed out, we need a place for the outside corner to go. The inside corner is fine. We don't mess with that. All right. So up here, node editing. Let's clean these up. D to delete. Delete the span. Oops. Hold that shift key down. Deselect the nodes that you don't want in your selection. D to delete and delete the span. All right. Let's go ahead and I'll undersize this a little bit. Notice that the angle that it's leaning, right, because it's at a slant, I'm using the corner point that's closest to that, so it kind of stays on its track. Okay. And then our, oops, not our fillet tool yet, our extend tool first, from there to there, there to there. Select our vectors, make sure they are closed and joined together, and then our fillet tool. Right? All right. Trying to get through this quickly. We only have a few more parts to do. Let's take this part here. Hold down our control key and drag off a copy. There's those two parts. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and move those to the finished parts layer, right? So that's a good, nice thing. Here, we don't have anything to do here. Those vectors, nothing needs to be changed there. So we're going to go ahead and move that to the finished parts layer as well. And we can group it together. These parts do need to be grouped together for the next stage of nesting. So let's make sure that this part is grouped and this part is grouped. All right, so let's come over here. We've only got two little things to fix on the edges of this one. These are just radiuses. They're not fillets or anything. They're just radiuses. So they're not part of the thingamajigger, the repair. All right. So for this, part here, we're going to, look at all those. We've got to do our offset inward outward thing first, right? So we're going to do that. We start with inward, offset inward, and then, oops, we want to delete the original. Offset inward, delete the original, and then outward, right? Now, just to validate or verify that offset and everything, just to verify our measurements, remember our parts are that 0.68 or 68575 or something like that. Let's measure our part here and make sure that our joints are still correct. 46875, that is correct. Awesome. We like to party. Yay for that. All right. Let's go to node editing and let's select our nodes. Let's turn this one off. And D for delete. And D for deleting that span. Over here, same thing. Quit grabbing the line. Make sure your mouse is up high. Let's add in these nodes. D for delete and D to delete that span. Okay. This line here, let's get out of node editing mode. We'll go ahead and I don't necessarily need to shorten this up. I should be able to extend from, let's find out. Should be able to extend from here to there. No, not going to let me do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten this line up in this direction, and I'm going to shorten what am I going to do with this one? I'm going to go into node editing, and I'm just going to pull this node upward, keeping my line straight. And then I should be able to now extend from here to there, from here to there. Awesome. All right. While we're in these areas and things, stick with where you're at so you don't get lost as to what steps you're doing. We've got to join this together. And while I'm in this corner, I'm going to go ahead and put my fillets in, right? That way, when I move over to this side, this part's done, right? So that way we don't get lost where we're at. All right. If you guys and girls have any questions, ask them in the group. I can pause and I can answer questions very easily and well and all that wonderful jazz. Let's come in here and D for delete, put our mouse over the line, D for delete. Keyboard shortcuts really do help. Learning them really help with kind of making things. It saves mouse clicks and stuff. It saves us with the ability to work our parts and all that stuff. While I'm here, I'm going to drag this node. I'm going to pull it up, straight up here. And on this node, while I'm here, I'm going to drag this over to create that kind of that short stub so that my extend tool can extend from here to here and from there to there. Join the parts together as one, because extending the line from one line to another doesn't necessarily close that vector up and join it. So we still want to close and join. All right, so this part is finished. It can be moved over to the finished parts layer. Great idea on that. Harvey said, hey, can we just move them over so that we know that part's finished, right? So awesome. Awesome. Now, on this one, I almost could come in here and basically draw a rectangle, right? Knowing that, I might not quite snap to it, but drawing a rectangle and having to go in there and, you know, size it to my line there, no big deal. Pull this out, size it to the line here, pull this out, size it to the line there, and then delete this one in the background and put my fillets in. That is much quicker sometimes than working with node editing. So if it's kind of a straight or vertical option, then, you know, I'm all for it, right? You know, with that being said, you know, this one's going to be the node editing, you know, option. So let's go into node editing. Oh, I forgot to scale in, scale out. That's okay. Even though that I did this part, not a big deal. It's still going to scale appropriately. So let's get out of node editing. Select all of our parts here. Offset inward, delete the original, and then outward. Okay. My dog bone fillets, you know, nothing changes with that part there. It's fine. So now I can come into my node editing, much cleaner to deal with. Now, one of the things that I could do to make this part quicker, if you will, you know, we've got a system going here, and what works, right? But, you know, I could come in here and on this, I could actually delete this span right there, breaking that line up, and then cut the vector on that part there, which basically separates this, and I could just delete it out. On this here, knowing this line is going to give me a hard time, and I'm still not going to really be able to extend my vectors and all properly, but still I can work with it. I can, you know, delete that span, right? That breaks this up. I can come in here and delete those vectors and delete that span that don't belong. Neither does that one. There's quite a few spans there. This one doesn't belong. Delete that. Now here, this is a straight line coming up from the corner. To give me the best chance of my extend tool working and, you know, my corners and all that stuff working and everything where I connect, I'm going to actually delete this span, right? And I'm just going to draw a line straight up, not very far. Space bar there. And I should be able to extend this line to there and extend this line. And it won't let me extend there. That's fine. Let's shorten this one up and extend from here to here and join these parts together as one. And my fillet tool should work for me now. It should still work for me. I should be able to fillet there and there, right? No problems and everything. Now I do have a fillet here, a T-bone fillet and everything where I, you know, where that slotted piece is coming to, you know, get cut out and all. I don't need it to be this big. You know, it only needs to be 1/8 of an inch because I'm using a 1/4 inch tool, right? So we'll go ahead and get rid of that as well. Go into node editing. I'm going to delete the span right there. I'm going to cut the vector there, and that'll delete that, you know, from there. I'll take this line and back it up a little bit. Back it up. Use my extend tool and extend that out. And then my fillet tool, I'll put my fillet in there. Right? So now this is a T-bone fillet, but this slotted joint, I'm going to undo that T-bone fillet there, or dog bone fillet that we've been using. This part is going to fit inside of another part. on the seat here and everything. And I may not want, getting back to where I was, I may not want the dog bone fillet there on that joint. Possibly, you know, I might want to go ahead and throw a T-bone fillet there and everything, because that extends my straight line where my joint is. I think that's going to be the better option on that inside corner, you know. So I'm happy to do that. No problem there. Same thing over here. I didn't do this one earlier. Let's go into node editing. Delete that span. I'm going to cut this vector. Delete that part. I'm going to back this line up. Use my extend tool to extend that. And then make sure that this is all joined together, because, you know, when you extend, sometimes it doesn't join. And then use my fillet tool, and I will do a T-bone fillet on this corner as well, just to push that out, right? No worries there. And all that jazz. All right, here. So this side's done. This top side piece is done here. I've got 3 more to do on this one. Let's get over here and go into node editing. Same thing. I'm just going to basically kind of make it quicker and stuff. You know, I can, I could have put my mouse on the line. The letter C is cut vector, and then I can delete that out, right? So over here, put my mouse on the line D to delete that span. Put my mouse over the vector C to cut that vector there. And then, you know, I can just hit the delete key to delete that out, right? Little things. I'm going to move this line straight back. I'm going to move this line straight down. I'm going to use my extend tool to reconnect these parts. So whatever method, whatever, you know, is quickest and fastest for you to make things quick and fast, right? So I'll go back to my fillet tool. I do want to go back to my dog bone fillets, and I want to put my dog bone fillets in there. Okay. Awesome blossom. So here, get out, escape key to get out of that tool, go into node editing. I'm hitting the letter N and everything. So put my mouse over D to delete that span, C to cut that node, delete to delete that line, or that, you know, that arc there. Same thing here, C to cut the vector there, D to delete that span, and not C to cut it, sorry. D to delete that span, and then that selected vector I can just delete. Don't do that. Delete, there we go. I'm going to pull this line back. I'm going to pull this line back so I can extend from here to there, from there to there. Select everything, make sure it is closed and joined, and then I'm going to fillet it. Right? Right. One more over here, and that part is done, and that leaves us with just a couple more parts. So you guys are getting the idea, right? Don't forget to save, somebody says. Absolutely. Let's go over here, hit save to update our save and changes, because who knows if something freezes up, the battery dies on the laptop. Way to go on that, Stephen. Now, Troy says, why not just delete the middle node? Why not just delete the middle node? So I'm assuming, since we were just working on the part that looks like this, if I go into node editing mode, he's saying, why not just delete the middle node here? I'm assuming you're talking about this right here. Well, that is going to screw up my line. This is my joint line here. I need that straight line as a reference line. So I need to get rid of these old T-bone fillets that were in the drawing, because I'm putting new fillets in their place. But I need this reference line here. That's my square rectangle, right? Before the fillets was in, that's my square part. And then my fillets were thrown in. So I've got to, you know, I want to cut this fillet free from the part to delete it. I want to keep that line, that reference line there. I want to kind of cut this free so I can delete this fillet. And now this is my straight line that is going to get reconnected to for my square. So when I reconnect from here to here, here to here, that's my original part before the fillets are put in. If I would have deleted that middle node, then that would have eliminated my reference line. So select this, make sure it's joined together, and then we can put the fillets in. Okay. All right. So this part is completed. We can throw this into the finished parts layer and move on. Okay, group it together. All the parts need to be grouped together and all that wonderful jazz. And move on, right? So this part here, these are oval slots. They have nothing to do with fillets. We only have two sides here to contend with on this part, which is awesome blossom. Let's do our offset first. This part right here is already done, so let's group that one together. Group that together, and let's move that to the finished parts layer, and let's move that out of the way. Okay. I do have two fillets here that I've got to clean up right there on that part. And those are arcs. They're not fillets. All right. So let's grab this part here, offset inward, deleting the original. Did I offset it already? Yeah, I did. Okay. Let's do that again. Offset inward and then outward. Right? Right. Okay. On this one, I need to clean up this side. So in for node editing. Once again, I'm just going to quickly, I'm changing it up on you guys so you guys can learn different methods. D to delete, C to cut the vector, and then I'm just hitting the delete key to delete that, right? Much quicker. If you remember what we were doing before, we were selecting the nodes, coming back, holding the shift key, grabbing any nodes that we were missing, and we were hitting the D to delete, and then we were hitting the D to delete that span, right? So the other way, I'm just kind of doing it a little differently, right? So either way, both of them get us to the same goal. Extend tool from here to here, from there to there. Select all of our vectors and make sure that they're closed up with the join tool, and then put our fillets in. Bam, bam. All right, so that side's done. We've got this side over here. This side, I'm going to use the second method instead of the first. I'm going to put my mouse and hit D, C for cut, and then I'm just going to delete that. D to delete that line, that span. Do not do that. That was the delete key, not the letter D. D to delete, and C to cut the vector. And then I can select this and delete it, right? I'm going to move this line back a little bit so my extend tool can wrap around that corner. Bam. Bam. Select, I'm drawing my selection box from right to left so it selects all the vector. And I'm joining the vectors and closing them up. And then I'm filleting my two corners. Okay. All right. Up here, a little bit of a different scenario. This one has a dog bone fillet or a T-bone fillet. And this line used to extend kind of outward to here, and then they T-bone filleted it. Well, you can leave it or clean it up. We're cleaning them up, so that's what we're doing. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete this span right here. The D for delete the span. Over here, this is going to be most likely the node that that line is closest to. And to find out, I'm going to actually use my extend tool and extend my line over to here. And I don't need to do anything with this except for trim it away, right? And that way I can come in here, make sure that it's closed up, and then I can put my fillet. Now this is an inside kind of corner. The dog bone fillet that we've been using may not work properly with this. The T-bone fillet will, right? So creating that relief and everything, so this part fits into its slot that it fits into and everything. But the dog bone fillet wouldn't, because it was right on an arc. So we had to use the T-bone for these two parts. These are T-bone fillets. So once again, escape key to get out of that. Node editing. I'm going to delete the span. I'm going to use my extend tool to extend this line over to where it's naturally supposed to go. I'm going to use my scissors to trim that away. I'm going to join the vector together, which it did automatically because I used the trim tool. And then I'm going to use my T-bone fillet here. Okay, so that puts that in. So this part is done. Now this one, this little notch here, you know, you kind of want to almost think that this is a fillet of some sort, because all the others were and everything, but it's not. It's just an arch cut, a radius cut. It's not a fillet. Never was, never would be. All right, so group that together. We're going to move that to the finished parts layer, and that leaves us with our final part here. Now this one's got 3 T-bone fillets. So there is basically a joint, and if you look at this this hole right here, this joint right here fits into that hole, and it's like a hinge. It, you know, opens, allows that lid to open and close and everything and all. And so these fillets are more so for relief for the bit, so we don't have a radius corner. So it basically gives us a nice straight line here for our part to reference up against. So when we get rid of these fillets here, we may end up going back with the T-bone fillet instead of the dog bone. We'll find out here in just a minute which one would probably give us the better relief. Let's find out. Let's go into node editing. Well, first, before we go into node editing, we've got to take our part, offset inward, delete the original. Now that might get rid of our circles right there. You know, it got rid of everything. Offset inward, outward. Okay. So the offset inward deleted that part. So what we're going to do is on this one, we're going to go outward first and then back inward. Now, what that did, let's take a look at what that did. So here's our joinery, and we've got this node right here, right? We've got this black point right there. And the reason why it deleted when we did the inward is because that line wasn't closed up. There was actually a void there. And so that black point was kind of showing us where that was. So I'm going to join this with a straight line and close that up. And then I'm going to make sure that my vector's closed. Okay. And now I should be able to properly offset inward first, and then outward like we've been doing all along, right? So because of that cut, that void in the vector, it was deleting it. And it's like, okay, there's a reason. There's a reason. And all that. Now, Darwin says, are you going to cut this out on Thursday in the shop? Am I going to cut this out on Thursday in the shop? If Cox, because I have no internet out in the shop right now until Cox fixes my internet tomorrow, Darwin, if they fix it, then I'll have an in the shop video. It won't be Thursday, but though it might be like Friday. But if they get it fixed and everything, and I get internet back out in the shop where I can stream, then I will. Good question. Thanks for asking. All right, so back to where we were. We've done our offset, our little trick offset inward outward, you know, to redraw the vectors. And now we're going to go into our node editing, and we're going to kind of clean these up. So I'm just going to very quickly mouse over the line, D for delete, C for cut, and I'm going to hit the delete key on the keyboard to delete that vector. Right. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and pull that back a little bit. All right. And I'll do the same thing. I'm just going to work my way down on one side. D, C for cut, select and delete that. And I'm going to pull this line back a little bit. Remember, so I can extend, right? Down here, D to delete that span. C to cut that vector, select, delete that, and I'm going to pull that line back. Okay. Now that I've got this side cut, I can rejoin my lines. So I'll use my extend tool, and I'm going to extend from there to there, from there to there, from here to there, right? I'm going to make sure that they're all closed up and joined up. And now I'm going to put in my fillets. So with the fillets, the dog bone fillet, if I put the dog bone fillet in here, it's going to create that little crease. And I kind of need this straight line across here because this is a hinge that swings. So I need the straight line across the bottom here. So the dog bone fillet is not going to be the appropriate choice there. I'm going to use the T-bone fillet, and it's going to push the wrong side down. Don't you? There we go. I want that T-bone fillet to go that way because I need that straight line because this is going to be the hinging piece, right? Here, I want the T-bone fillet there. So now I have my hinging part. And since I'm at it, I might as well throw that there to create that lip, right? I'm just putting it back with the smaller fillets that I'm using for the tool that I'm cutting out with, right? And that gives me a nice straight square piece that, and my stop where that hinge, swings around in that hole. Over here, I'm just going to work my way down the line. We're going to hit the escape tool, and I'm going to go into node editing. D for delete, C for cut, select that, delete it out of there. Pull this back a little bit. Come down here. I'm just working kind of in order. D, C, delete key to delete those and pull that line back a bit, right? One more. D for delete, C for cut, select that vector, hit the delete key, and I'm going to pull this line back a little bit. All right. Use my extend tool and extend from here to here, from here to here, and from here to there. Okay. And select that, all those cuts that I just did, except for that circle. Make sure that vector is closed up, join it together. And then because of the type of joint that it is, I'm going to use the T-bone fillet on this line here and here and up there. Okay. All right. So this part is complete as well. And so I can group it together and move it to the finished parts layer. Yay. All right. Oh, we got a little hider down here. All right. I've already fixed that one. Almost there, guys. We got one more part. Offset. Inward. Delete the original. Then outward. Okay. This one was already corrected earlier when we were trying that node editing and everything and stuff on the board, right? This part I started to clean up, but I didn't finish, right? So let's go ahead and finish it now. Node editing. C for cut. D to delete. Don't do that. Select that one and delete that out of there. Let's pull this line down. C for cut. D to delete the line. Delete that. Don't do that. Make sure you're only deleting that part. And we're going to pull this line back here. Extend tool from here to there, from there to there. Select all the vectors and make sure that they are closed and joined. And before we move on, we put our fillet in. Now we're going back to the dog bone fillet for this, okay? That's, our dog bone fillet. Here, this part slides into one of the legs, and we have this reference here, and then it seats down onto this. So this part may be better off as a dog bone fillet than a T-bone fillet. A T-bone fillet it might be better off as a T-bone than a dog bone, because a dog bone is going to come down at an angle, and when this thing is resting on its piece that it hooks on, that this hooks on and everything, it might not give me a nice flat surface to sit on, right? So let's escape key to get out of that tool. N for node editing. C to cut the vector. D to delete. Should be able to select just the, oh, it didn't cut. Notice it selected that vector there, so it didn't cut properly that first time around. There we go. And I'm just going to pull this straight back. And while I'm here, I might as well join that back together and make sure it's closed up and work on this corner. So remember, I said that I need that part that's going to fit in here to sit nice and flat on here. If I did it as a dog bone fillet, that's going to push this down a bit. And my question to, the question to myself is where this part, this half-inch piece is fitting, is a dog bone fillet going to be a good choice or not? Well, imagine if I had my half-inch plywood. Let's go half inch, 0.5. And imagine that part was sitting, in here like this. I still got plenty of room to sit on there, right? So not bad. Now, if I did it as a T-bone fillet, then that would push the part out and it would give me more of a surface to sit on. So I'm kind of thinking I'm going to go with the T-bone on that one instead of the dog bone, right? It gives me more of a surface to sit on. So I think that'll be the appropriate choice for that. Now here on this part, this is dog bone fillets. This is a part that I created earlier, that we cleaned up earlier and didn't come back and finish it. And then this one's going to also be a T-bone fillet just because of the way the part hooks in and everything. So we're switching back and forth between dog bone and T-bone. And normally, again, there's specific uses for these, but sometimes it also comes down to what's going to give us the best, surface fit and things like that. So we got to kind of consider that too. Node editing, cut the vector. And I actually right-clicked and cut the vector instead of hitting the letter C. So I didn't use the keyboard shortcut on that one. But that's okay. It works the same way if you right-click. Let's extend this line back to here. Let's join this and close it up. And let's go ahead and put our fillet. And again, on this one, I am going to kind of opt for the T-bone fillet. Okay. Now, keep this in mind. When you're doing your fillet, your T-bone fillet, whatever line that you're on is where that T-bone is going to go. So make sure you're on the right line. I want to push in this way because I need that straight surface, that 90-degree kind of surface there. Okay. So remember that. All right. So this side is completely done. This side still needs to be done. I'm kind of getting past the point of finishing these up. So I'm actually going to go in to node editing, and there's a center line here on these lines. I'm actually going to cut the vector on these center lines here, and I'm going to just delete this right half. And then I'm going to go into my mirror tool and create a mirror copy and flip that to the right since that side is done. And I'm going to join these two parts, right? So, right? Save some work, right? The less things that we have to do, the better. If we can do it that way, great. I could have probably on these, I could have done 1/2 of each of the part and flipped it over and, all that good stuff. Same thing here on these parts and stuff. And even this chair and all, I could have done that. But, we were working through it. All right. So I'm going to group this together. And this is going to get moved to the finished parts layer. And ta-da, all my parts are done. Okay. So I'm going to move them off of this board for a minute. I can get rid of this big rectangle. We don't need that anymore. And I'm going to take my board size back down to the actual size of the parts that I'm working with, which is 36 inches by 24 inches by 1/2 inch. I'm going to come back here and get my job set up back. Now, remember, if you remember at the beginning of the video, I said that there was one part that I got to kind of do a workaround on because of my digital wood carver, because my CNC cutting size and things. And that part happens to be the table lid right here. And the reason being is I have a 24 by 40 cutting area, and this table lid happens to be 27 by 23. Why is it 27 by 23? Never mind. I don't have to do the workaround. Is that the right part? Let me see this one. 28 by 20. No, I'm good. All right. Cool. Earlier, when I was playing around with these earlier and stuff, this part was 30 something by, it was beyond my cutting area. But it's not now. I don't know why, but that's okay. I'm fine. I'm happy with that. That's good. That means I'm ready to nest. So I can take all of my parts here. Any parts that have internal, let's get back to there. Any parts that have internal, vectors and things, they have to be grouped together before you nest. They've got to be grouped together before you nest. Otherwise, it'll move them all around wherever you don't want them and stuff. So make sure your parts that have internal, vectors and things, make sure they're grouped together individually. So we're going to select this. I'm going to go into my nesting tool here. And I'm going to be using a 1/4 inch diameter end mill to cut the parts out. a clearance between the parts. And the clearance is, let me kind of draw this out. So imagine if we have one part here, and we have our 1/4 inch bit here. Holy camole, that's a small circle. Here, let's make this bigger just to pretend. Let's pretend that's our 1/4 inch bit. The clearance is, when this bit is cutting on the edge here, the clearance is the distance from the right edge of the bit to the next part. Okay, so that's the clearance gap when you're in the nesting tool. So again, let's select our parts and go into nesting. And so I'm using a 1/4 inch diameter bit. In the clearance, I'm just going to go, I'll go 1/8 of an inch. And border gap, you know, how far I want to be away from the border of my material, I'm just doing a 1/16 of an inch border gap and everything. I'm going to let the parts rotate up to 90 degrees for best fit. And on these parts, do you want to mirror the part for best fit or not? And the reason why you may not want to mirror is sometimes plywood has a nice side and a bad side, right? Usually like on inexpensive plywoods and all, you've got a good side and you got a not so good side. And if I mirror the parts, then, you know, the outside of my parts, one could be, you know, the bad side of the plywood, and the other could be, you know, the face of the plywood that I want to keep. And if I don't mirror the parts, then all my faces are going to be, you know, the good side, right? I'm really not stressing that too much unless I was using a really cheap birch plywood where one side is completely different than the other in things. But if I'm using a nice furniture grade plywood or something, or or a nice birch plywood and all, I usually can get two good sides. It just depends. It really depends. No matter what, you're still going to have a good side and a bad side. So do I want to mirror these parts for best fit? The only two parts that I'm concerned about mirroring are these two parts here and these two parts here. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to leave that be. I won't mirror. I'll just let it rotate. So I want to rotate kind of from the bottom left corner of the board. I'm going to nest from the bottom left corner and along the x-axis. So I'm going to click preview. And all right, so there is one part that is not suitable for nesting. Okay, there is one part that is not suitable for nesting. The part not considered for nesting. And so if we click OK, we'll zoom out, and we'll have one of these parts. Here, let's stay focused on the parts here for a minute. Let's do that again so you can see that message pop up. And if I move that message out of the way, it identifies the part that's not suited for nesting. And that's the part that I was talking about earlier. And that's the part that I said, you know, it's not nesting because it won't fit on my material. Now, my material is 25 by 36. This part, is 27 by 23. So because it's 23 and I have a 1/16 of an inch border gap from my all four sides, it's not letting it fit in. So in order to get that part to be able to fit in, I would have to let my parts go up to the border of the board and everything. And so if I came in here and I turned my border gap off 0, it should let me nest that part. And again, it's not going to let me nest it. So let's come in and I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. I don't think that has anything to do with anything. But let's see here. I'm going to nest that and it's still not suitable for the part. And the reason being is it's not going to fit on my material with my, tool diameter size and clearance and everything. So I do have to do the workaround on that part and everything. So I'm going to exclude this part from the nesting for right now. Okay. I'm going to exclude the part from the nesting, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my border gap back in. I do want that border gap in there. And I'm going to go ahead and nest those other parts. Okay. So I have my sheet number 1. It's going to take it's for that 24 by 36 inch sheet. For that size, it's going to take 6 sheets to cut the parts out. Okay. And I still have this part to contend with. So if I come back into my, let's click OK to allow that and everything. If I come back into here, let's go ahead and make my default sheet the active sheet so I can work with this part here. And I'm actually going to, my default sheet is blank. I'm actually going to manually, let's hit cancel on this for a moment. I'm going to manually move that. I'll center it to my material. And I'm going to rotate it back 90 degrees. Okay. And I'm going to put that on my default sheet, and my border gap is whatever it is. It's centered on my sheet and everything, and that'll be fine for me to cut that part out and everything and all. If I wanted to, for the purpose of keeping these 3 parts together when they cut out, I could move this part down to, the edge and just make sure that the finish edge of my board is over here, so I get a nice finish edge on there, and then this could get cut out and all. Or I could just center it, whatever the case may be, and everything. Either way, I had to work with that one independently. I'm going to let it stay in the center of the board. All right, so go back to my nesting tool. So I've got my default sheet here. I've got my sheet 1 parts, and that little joint belongs somewhere. It belongs somewhere in here. So it's not supposed to be out there by itself like that. So I'm going to undo, undo, and let me figure out what part is not nested properly. That one's nested. That one's nested. That one is. That one is. That one's nested. That one's nested. Or not nested. I keep saying the word nested, but joined. Those are joined. That's joined. Well, where is that little sucker at? Mysterious. Mysterio. They're all grouped together, grouped. So once again, let's try that again, and let's see where that part comes from. Turn that off, go into nesting, click apply or preview. And out of shits and giggles, where is this part coming from? That slot's still in that part. That slot's still in that part. Where's my table leg at? All right, so here, there's that part. All right, undo. And the part that's not nesting properly is this guy. this part right here, and it's that slot that's messing with it. So I'm gonna come in and ungroup him. I'm going to make sure that that vector is closed up so there's still one open vector. That's what my problem is. I have one open vector, and it's not going to join or close because it's got an overlap. And if you remember, this is the vector that I cut in half and flipped sideways, right? So let me find my opening. Let me pull this to the right, up. It's not that one. Let me pull this one. There's my gap. So join that with a straight line or snap it to there, and let's see if that closed it up. That closed it up. All right, now I can group that part back together and nest. See, there's always a reason for something. And we just got to figure out what that reason is and why certain things do what they do. So let's preview that. And where in the hell is that part going? All right, stand by. That is a mystery in itself. Ungroup. There's no duplicate there. It is closed. Oh, I still didn't close it. Closed, you son of a gun. Now is it closed? There we go. All right, now can I group it? Now can I nest it? Let's find out. Dun, 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 dun. Preview. There we go. That's mo better. Come in here and click OK to lock in that nesting, and then come back and go to our active sheet, default sheet here. Grab this part. Let's go ahead and close this tool. Let's get this part centered onto our material. And I'll hit the number 9 key to rotate it twice. Get it centered on our material for our default sheet. And now we are ready to toolpath these parts. Okay, we're going to wrap up in this last 15 minutes. Here we go. All right, let's start creating some toolpaths. So on this toolpath, these little holes right here, those little circles, this part right here fits on them, and that creates that little fence to create like a little easel when that desk is lifted up. And so basically from the back, these are getting screwed through and countersunk from the back of the part. So what I will probably do is on this, I'll probably create a little drilling toolpath with a V-bit to mark those, but I probably will not drill them. I'll probably drill them by hand and countersink them from the back side, because this is my face here, and all. And because the screws get screwed from the back side of this into this part here, okay, for the fence. So when it comes to the tool pathing of this, I can now ungroup these pieces. I'm going to hit the letter, and let's get into the proper finished parts layer. Make sure your layer that you're working in is the layer that's active. I can go ahead and ungroup these objects now so I can work with them. Now these little guys here, they're little pockets. If we were to look at that image and everything, those are pockets, and there's a board in there that basically creates like a little kickstand, like you would see on the back of a picture frame and things like that and all. So those are going to be little shallow pockets and everything. They're not through cuts and all. And there's that, you see that circle right there where that part hinges inside that circle and all. And this is a knockdown furniture. This literally all locks together. There's no screw or joinery. The only screws on this are the little fence part right here. The rest of this is knockdown. It all locks together and everything. It's a pretty cool design. So you really, I mean, glue would probably be nice, but you really don't need to. It's all knocked down so you can break it down and stuff and store it away and all. So that's pretty cool. So these are pocket cuts right here. And so they're going to be, we're going to use a 1/4 inch end mill. And I'm just going to, on this 1/2 inch plywood, I'm just creating a shallow pocket to, you know, for my my leg. This is the part right here that gets pocketed on the ends to create like little kick outs. This is my little kickstand right here. And so on that pocket cut, 1/4 inch would probably be deep enough. For that, I'll do an offset cut. Round and around she goes. And this is going to be my default. I'm just going to call it sheet 0. Sheet 0. And this is a pocket cut. And it's a 0.25 end mill. Okay. I'm going to calculate that. Awesome. That'll create those nice little pockets in there and everything. Pretty. Okay. The 3 holes here, I'm just going to, I'll be drilling these by hand, but I'm going to go ahead and do a little drilling toolpath with a V-bit, just to mark where they are. And so I'll just go 1/8 inch deep with my 60-degree V-bit, which is, oh, that's 22 right there. And don't need to peck. It's only going 1/8 inch deep. And again, this is going to be sheet 0 drilling and 60 DEG bit. This is just to mark, you know, the where those holes are and all, so I can drill and countersink from the back side. I'll drill through the front, so in case there's tear out, it tears out on the back because the back's getting countersunk. Blah blah blah. All right, and then finally, there's a profile cut on this. We'll go with a profile toolpath, cutting 1/2 inch deep with my 1/4 inch end mill. On the outside of the line, we're going to add some tabs to this. The tabs are going to be 1/8 inch by 1/4 inch. And let's throw a tab in here, 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 and here. That'll be enough. And let's name this sheet 0, profile cutout, 0.25 end mill. Calculate that one, and you know, that'll be the profile cutout to cut out that part, and done and done. Okie dokie. And Excuse, I said it backwards, guys. I said that I'm pre-drilling these holes. I didn't say it backwards, but this is the bottom side of this lid. This is on the inside of that lid when it's open. So you want to make sure that the good face of the plywood is facing down. And when these markers get marked, I'm going to drill through with a small bit, then I'll use from the other side, I'll use the appropriate bit for, because this will be kind of almost like a pass-through hole, and then it'll be screwing into the little fence thing over there. And then I'll be countersinking on this back side. But I talked about drilling through here, so if there's any blowout, it's getting countersunk. Well, this is the side that's getting countersunk and everything. So just remember that. So good face on the plywood goes down. And I'm going to give this file to you guys so y'all have it to play around with, and you can make this project if you want. It'll be in the description of the video that you can download. All right, so sheet 1 is done, or sheet 0 in this case is done. All the toolpaths are created. Now, in order to move from sheet to sheet when you're in nesting mode, you've got to open up the nesting tool. And on the active sheet down here, you've got to change to your active sheet. Okay. When you're in your active sheet, you then close that, or you can hit cancel. So now sheet 1 is active, and you can create your toolpaths on that. And you just work your way around sheet 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? So on sheet 1, we'd come in and we'd create the toolpaths on this. Now, this is the inside bottom of it's the inside of the box. So in the case of this, the bottom side underneath the table is not going to be seen. This will be seen when it's open. So you would have your good side of your face plywood up, right? All right. So again, let's close this. And we got to ungroup onto the group layer. That's the layer that it's on. This is going to be a pocket cut, 1/4 inch. And these two little guys get cut out as well. The reason, I'm assuming, the reason why they're getting cut out is to basically the slot. If we measured this part, we measure vertically, this part here, which is our little fence, is about 2 3/8 inches. Okay. And our slots here, if we measure horizontally, that it fits into is, 2.9. So this should fit in here just perfect. This should be 1/2 inch. If I go vertically, this should be 1/2 inch. Might be a little bit more. Yeah, a little more. So it's not a tight fit. And it sits in at an angle because, the lid opens. So this is getting pocketed out a bit to kind of create a little relief so it can sit at an angle. You could almost do a kind of a fluting or a chamfering toolpath or whatever, so it sits at that angle when it rests in here, so it sits flat in the top and the bottom. But to create kind of like a slight chamfer. But we don't really know what angle. I mean, I could probably figure out what angle it's sitting at depending on what notch it's in. So all we're doing is we're going to pocket this out a little bit to create just a little relief, so it can bend in different angles, so that it can bend in different angles. We're creating that little relief so it has room to no matter what angle it's at. That's all we're doing. We're pocketing it out. All right, okie dokie. All right, so let's get out of the measure tool here, and so I'm just gonna pocket. Let's get rid of these numbers. By the way, if you have dimensions on your board, these dimensions are treated like a bitmap image, and they're not carved. So even if you had them selected when you were creating your toolpath, they would not carve. So I'm going to take, and all of these, hold your shift key down when you're selecting more than one item. These are going to be one continuous pocket cut. And I'm just going to cut them down a 1/4 of an inch. And 1/4 of an inch end mill. Offset is fine. This is sheet 1, pocket, 0.25 end mill. Calculate. Okay. And then we have our profile cuts, this one and this one. Our profile cut, cutting all the way through the material. On the outside, we're going to add some tabs. Let's throw a tab in here and here. We even throw one down here for good measure. Put a tab there as well. We'll throw a tab in there and there and over here. All right. This is going to be sheet 1. Profile cutout. I always specify cutout because I always cut the cutout last, right? That gets cut last. So I know by the word cutout that it's the last toolpath that I run for that sheet. 0.25 end mill. Okay. And so if we preview those visible toolpaths, blah, 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 there's our little part to get cut out and all that nice jazz. Okay. And then we're just rinse and repeat, guys. Most of these cuts are profile and pocket cuts all the way through. And so we got to go back into nesting, turn active sheet 1 off, go to active sheet 2, click on cancel, and then create our toolpaths. All right, now this guy here, again, he's going to get pre-drilled because screws are going to screw into this part, and it's going to be the fence piece that goes across the front of the table. Now, I would typically like that to be the face, right? I would like that to be the face and be the nice side of the plywood if I'm using plywood, because I'm going to be edge banding it and things like that, because it's going to be, you know, part here. But in order for this to not be the face here, I would have to make sure that this part here that's kind of nested with it, that the face of my plywood, the good face, is facing down at the table. And this part, when it gets cut, since this is the back of the table here, that this part would be the left leg. And then that would mean that this part, when I get to sheet 3, I'm going to mirror this part because it's going to be the right leg, and I'm going to have this good face sheet facing upward. All right, so we got to alternate, you know, how things go. Or I could just make this the left side and just mirror this part. And again, my face would be facing down. It doesn't matter. Just one of these two parts need to be mirrored. Whichever one you do, it doesn't matter. So I'll go ahead and I'll do this one. I'll just mirror this one. So I don't want to create a mirror copy. I'm just going to flip it horizontally. And of course, I just said I don't want to create a mirror copy, and I didn't uncheck that. I just want to flip it horizontally. Okay. And so this will be my right leg, and the face of the plywood is facing down. Okay. All right. So that being said, all of these cuts are through cuts. Every single one of them, they're all profile cuts. So I'm going to have one drilling, and let's go ahead and ungroup these parts. Right click and ungroup to the group layer. Okay, so I'm going to have one little V-carve pre-drill drilling toolpath for this one. This is going to be sheet 2. I know this is boring watching me create toolpath, guys, so I'm going to wrap it up after, you know, sheet 3. It's the same rinse and repeat. Just create your toolpath. They're all pretty much the same cuts. Sheet 2, this is going to be my drill and 0.25, oops, I'm sorry, 60 DEGV bit. Calculate that. Reset that. And then the rest of these parts, all of this is a profile cut. Now the software is smart enough to know that I have inside vectors here. So when I'm cutting on the outside of the line here, it's going to do the opposite and cut on the inside of the line here for my inside vectors. So I can select all of them together. I don't have to break them up to inside and outside. I can do my profile toolpath. Excuse me for a minute. And outside of the line, let's add some tabs. Let's throw, I'll throw a tab here and there. Yeah, and let's see here. I'll go 1, 2, 3, and I'll throw one on the inside of the leg. There we go. Don't need a whole lot. Inside part needs some tabs. Hold on a second. Let me go in here. That's a big inside part. Let's throw one there and one there. Okay. Let's calculate that. This is going to be sheet 2. Profile cut out 0.25 in mil. All right, calculate that, and that will be you know, that cutout and everything. So it cuts on the inside of the line for those inside of the vectors and the outside of the line for the outside of the vectors. So that's our part. All right, and you would just keep going through and you would repeat those steps. Now, of course, the files that I'm going to provide you guys, they're going to be 10.0 files, so you should be able to open them if you have 10.0 or later. I will provide the Vectric file of this for you. All the toolpaths will be done and created. But for those of you that are working older software, like the 8.5, 8, 9, 9.5, you'll have the vectors already done that you would have to import into your software and nest. You'd only have to nest because all the vectors are already done, right? So you'll have these files and everything. So you would just go down the list and, you know, now active sheet 3, you hit cancel, and then you start creating the toolpath for active sheet 3, then 4, 5, and 6. And they're mostly, this one is all profile cut. Sheet 4 is all profile cut out all the way through. Sheet 5 is profile cut all the way through. And sheet 6 is profile cut all the way through. So we only had two sheets that had some pocket cutting in there and 2 sheets that had a little bit of drilling. The rest of them are cut out parts, right? So you know, you kind of get it, right? It's rinse and repeat for those. You would do, just keep going down, and it's a good idea to you know, name your sheets and, you know, the toolpaths and stuff and all that good stuff. All right, so let's see here. Let's not forget to save up to the point that we're at right now. And Kenny Brooks says, can non-cutting notes be added to the sheet as a reminder for a good side up? Right? And so since each of these sheets are kind of their own toolpath and everything, what you can do, Kenny, with that is you can go to edit notes here. You can, now it also depends on your post processor. I'll show you how my post processor is laid out, but I could say sheet 1, good face down, sheet 2, bad face down, and this and that. If I created a job sheet that, when I create a summary, a sheet summary, let me create a sheet summary here. And if we go look at that sheet summary, it's coming up. What do you mean that file was not found? Hold on a second. File Explorer. Stand by a minute. Okay. In here, it creates 3 sheets. The summary creates job sheet 1, 2, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we look at my File Explorer, when I created the sheet summary sheet for the first sheet, the second sheet, sheet. So it does it automatically. It creates those, it breaks them up. And in here, you have Toolpath, estimated, tool information and things like that. And let's go back now in here. And I don't remember seeing a place where there are notes that actually come up with the sheet summary, but let's kind of see here. If I create a note, sheet 1 face down, I'll just create a note, a simple note, and I'll create a sheet summary. Not a time summary, a sheet summary there. And save that. And if we pull up the summary sheet for sheet 1, we have our job layout, and there's the job notes, sheet 1 face down. Oh, wait, you're not even seeing that. Let me maximize that back. Sorry, guys. So sheet 1, there's the job sheet notes, right? Face down, but whatever notes I type in, that all the notes are going to show up here. So sheet 1 face down, sheet 2, this and that. It's not going to break up the notes by per summary sheet. So you could print out this little summary sheet, on your printer, and you have those notes. Now, with the digital wood carver, our post processors, if I, with that note, sheet 1 note and everything, we actually, when the toolpaths are saved, oops, I don't want to do it as a laser. I want to do it as a helical arcs. And everything. When I open that file up, in the digital woodcarver Toolpath, the file details are in the top of the G code. And here is where the notes show up in the actual G code in the Toolpath. And you can modify your post processor for your machine to include notes like this, and everything. You can do that. If we looked at the raw post processor file, if I go to File, Open Application Data Folder, and let me save this work before I do that. If I go to File, Open Application Data Folder, and I go to My Post P, yours will probably be under Post P unless you put them in your My Post P folder specifically. If I go, if I go to any one of my post processors here, I'll just go helical arcs. If I open that up in Notepad, let me make that smaller and pull that over there. In the header, basically you can create a header dialog in your header and everything. Your header most likely is going to have, the start of your G code, but you can create a dialog, and it's basically quote marks, /, 2 forward slashes, a line, and dashes to kind of create like a blank line, and then 2 dashes, and then file details, quote mark, TP file name, time and date, length, and all. And this information here about creating your tool paths and stuff is in your user manual, and also let's see here, post processor editing guide right here. And in that post processor editing guide, within the Vectric, it gives you, basically breaks down what a post processor is, but it gives you, how you can set up your headers, and it tells you different statements that can be created and what that statement will result in, different, all the different codes. So what these different codes means, and things that you can do. So my toolpath summary and my post processor can give me any kind of information as long as I put that, dialogue in the header, it'll give me the desired result and things. So it's a good way to customize your own post processor to achieve the, the files you want. But long story short, your sheet summary PDF document that you print out, you can get your notes that way as well. Okay. All right. So I'll finish up creating the toolpaths and everything for this project, and I will post the files in the description of this video. This video will be live at the end of the broadcast on the SpindleTV YouTube channel, and give me about an hour, and these files will be in the description. The download link for this project file will be in the description for you to have some fun and play with. For those of you that are rocking older versions of the Vectric software, before version 10, you'll have a DXF vector file with these vectors that you can just import, nest them, and then create the toolpath. Okay. For those of you rocking 10 and up, you can just open the file up and everything will be right there for you that you could play around with it. You can change your job size, set up the toolpaths, and recalculate the toolpaths for your tools, your machine, your setup. Never take a project for granted, not even if it comes from me or anyone. Always open it up, adjust the tools for your tool database from your tool database and rock that. This was a long class, guys. We went at it for 3 hours and 9 minutes. I hope you got something out of it on how to, check out 3axis.co. Great website for some cool vector projects. A lot of neat things they've got in there. They've got laser projects too. They've got laser projects that could be CNC card projects, right? You just got to size it up properly. But when you're importing a third-party vector file, you want, now hopefully you have some ideas on things that you may have to do to work with that vector file. We had to do a lot of cleanup on that particular vector file to get our little fillets right, for what we're doing, what we were doing and everything, and the size bit that I was using and stuff. We had to do some node editing. We had to do some cleaning. Sometimes it's just easy. You import it, size it, lay it out, you're done. Sometimes you got to do some work like we did. Hopefully you pick something up out of this. Hopefully you got some good insight on how to approach things. And then also nesting. We did a little bit of nesting here and then creating the toolpaths for that nesting. And once again, my sheet 2 is done and things. And so I'm just going to continue on, make sure that active sheet number 3 is next, and always close your nesting tool. And then you can create your toolpaths for that and then come back and go to sheet 4, on and on and on. Okay. And everything, and just work it, work it. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this class. I hope you got something out of it. Sorry I know it was a long one, but hopefully it was a good way to spend your day or your evening, hanging out and kind of learning some new things and stuff. Hopefully, you picked up a few things, keyboard shortcuts, right? So especially in node editing mode, things to make us faster and all. If I do cut this project out, if I get internet out in the shop, I will. Darwin had asked about that. I will set up an in the shop video. But right now I have no internet out in the shop since that lightning strike. Cox is going to come look at my internet tomorrow. I really got to test my Ethernet cable. I think it got fried underground, so that means I got to dig another trench. If I can get that done, I will do an in the shop and cut this out. It's a cool little project. It'd be fun. I need a little desk right here anyway. The chair, I don't know about. I don't think I'd fit in the chair part of it, but the little desk, I need a little desk, and I might modify it to make it taller and all for myself. So I have something for my little tablet and stuff over here and all. But yeah, I want to thank everybody that hangs out with me every week. Sorry about last week. I got tied up with customers, and we had our live event with Burl on Wednesday that I had to prepare for, and so we didn't have a class last week. I try to do my best to make a class every Tuesday, but thanks for sticking with me and coming back. All right, everybody. Until next time. Hold on a second. Somebody said something about it. Bear with me a second. I'm not going to say goodbye just yet. Let me make sure I got all the questions answered. Hold on. Tippy, could you just add a text without carving? You could add text without carving, but that's not going to show up anywhere when you're at the machine. It's in the Vectric, Tippy. So I could put text all over this. I can absolutely do that. I can add text all over this and things like that. But when creating the toolpath, I'm not going to have that text anywhere other than in my Vectric program, right? For those notes, like which sheet's up, which is down and all. So either putting them in the notes section and printing out a little summary sheet, or if your post processor like our digital wood carvers, Tippy, allow for that, you can just put it in the notes section and it'll be in the toolpath itself, right? So good question on that one. Harvey says, when you save the toolpath, you could name it sheet 0 good side up 0.25 email or something like that. There you go. There you go. You guys are thinking now, right? So put the name in the toolpath, right? Good side up, good side down. That's a great way, Harvey. You guys are on ball tonight, man. Like it. We'll have to make something like this for Michael. Awesome. Hey, Michael, how you doing? I know you should be in bed by now. Hey, Crystal, how are you doing? Steven is popped up in there somewhere. Camaro, how you guys doing down south? Hopefully y'all are doing well. Michael says hi. Hey, Michael. He probably went to bed, but tell him I said hello. Let's see here. Great class. There we go. Thanks. I learned a lot. And I don't see any more questions. Great, Laney. Okay. All right. That ends all the questions and everything. So now I'll finish off and say until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye, guys and gals and Michael. See ya.